It's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. So I've got many things for you today, but we're going to keep it nice and enjoyable and help you develop your English. As you can see on the screen, we're going to be looking at some news, vocabulary, and of course, in association with Elika Formación, tailor-made solutions for your business. As you can see as well, the email address or the website www.elicaformacion.com. Go over, check it out. Okay, so as I said, expressions, news, vocabulary, many different things for you today. I want to look at pronunciation. We did a bit the last day, and I think it's super interesting because English is just so varied. It doesn't follow any rules. It's a nightmare sometimes. So we're going to look at some words that are difficult to pronounce or commonly mispronounced. We're going to look at those. And again, sometimes they can be pronounced different in the different English-speaking countries. We'll look at that. We're going to look at the generation wars again. It's happening all over again. Generation Z, the young 20-somethings, are at war with the older generation. So a lot of us are interested in it. Well, I am interested in it. I hope you are too. We're going to look at things that bother them, that annoy them, molestar, in the office that are different to the older generation. What else are we going to look at? We're going to look at some of our business expressions, and we are going to then look at finally, we're going to finish those animal idioms. Okay, I remembered all that. So first and foremost, let's look at what was happening in the news while we were sleeping. So we're going to jump on over. I'm going to make myself smaller here in the corner. I'm going to get rid of this text. I don't need this text now, so let me get rid of that. Okay, and I'll move on down here to the corner. Great stuff. Okay, as we can see, Vladimir Putin, as usual, in the news. What's he been up to? Vladimir Putin, Canada, Apple, the news of the night. So for Vladimir Putin, the world is entering its most dangerous decade, 10 years. The world is facing probably the most dangerous decade since the end of the Second World War, warned the Russian president last night, October 27, in front of a forum in Moscow. We are at an historic moment. This is interesting because it says a historic moment. Sometimes you'll see, because of the vowel sound, an historic, but I would say a historic moment. The leader repeated his recent attacks on the West and what he called his dangerous, bloody and dirty game of denying sovereignty and uniqueness of countries. He also denied preparing to use nuclear weapons in the war in Ukraine. That's good news. That is good news. Although he himself repeatedly warned that Russia would use all available means to protect itself. Okay, frankly means quite francamente. It is terrifying that we could possibly be in this situation, but anyway, let's move on. I don't want to stay on that too long. It's too depressing. Canada wants to join the United States Indo-Pacific Alliance. Nearly 5 months after US President Joe Biden launched the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, Canada said on Thursday it would join the 13-nation alliance, considered the centerpiece of a US strategy to counter the economic weight of China in the region. This is in the South China Morning Post. If you're looking for information in that region, the South China Morning Post is an English daily newspaper. I would recommend it. You can get information for that region of the world. The announcement was made by Canadian Foreign Minister Melanie, I don't know if it's Joly or Joly, who promised at a joint press conference with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken at Ottawa, and it would play a greater role and deepen his engagement with the United States. Okay, so Canada, normally a very friendly nation, no enemies, neutral almost, is joining this alliance. Okay, not sitting on the fence. This is when you don't. Sometimes I suppose in Spanish you might say mojate, like, and in English we might say don't sit on the fence. The fence is the barrier between two properties. Generally, generally Canada is firmly on the fence, sitting on the fence. But now they are joining the alliance. And finally, Apple iPhone sales are disappointing, with $90 billion in turnover and a net profit of 20.7 billion from July to September. The Apple brand unveiled Thursday's results, exceeding Wall Street expectations. That's reported from CNBC. However, the company was disappointed in revenue across major product categories, including iPhone sales. Tim Cook, the company's boss, said Apple's performance in iPhones and phone sales was strong despite signs that other smartphone makers are struggling is having a difficult time with a recent drop in demand, the company said. Okay, and another interesting thing is the introduction now of the iPhone devices here in Europe, that they must have the let me see if I can give you an example from my phone. They have to have this connector, because they had what was it called, the lightning connector. I'm not sure, I don't have an iPhone. I don't need one. I'm not against them, I'm not for them, I don't care, but I think it is good news that they have this. Sometimes we call this like a connector or a jack or something for all of the phones, because it's quite complicated, and always we've all had this situation of asking someone for a charger and they go, I have this one. It's like, no, I need the other one. It just makes our lives less complicated, so that's good news. Okay, right, I want to move on. And what do I want to look at now? Yes, I wanted to look at pronunciation. Okay, and this from this website, Business English Resources, commonly mispronounced words in English. I was talking about pronunciation with my students the other day. It's really fun. We all have our problems with pronunciation. Some people even say pronunciation in English, but it is in fact pronunciation. Let's have a look at some of the commonly mispronounced words for English language learners, and let's see if you are guilty of these, and we're going to look and try and help you with this pronunciation. Okay, so I'm going to go into the page. I'm going to make it a bit bigger. It's a bit. I heard the other day on a popular podcast, Joe Rogan. It's a very popular podcast in English, and about glasses. And he said at a certain age in the UK, they call them 45s, because when you reach 45, your eyesight starts to go. Because when he said, I'm 44, when he said it, I was thinking, my eyesight's okay, actually. And then he said, yeah, in the UK, they call them 45s, because at 45, you start needing glasses, a lot of people. And I was like, oh, no. So next year, I'm going to need glasses, you know. But anyway, I never heard the expression, but 45s, a kind of common term for when you start needing glasses, or the glasses themselves. Okay, words ending in OUS. I'm going to make this bigger. Words ending in OUS. Okay, so here we go. We're going to highlight them. Let's see if it can be easier for you guys to see. Okay, I hope you guys... I'm going to double check and make sure you guys can see these. Yes, you can. Okay, gotcha. Words ending in OUS. So we have first is various, serious, nervous, obvious, previous, eos. Okay, eos, and this one is just us. Various, serious, nervous, obvious, previous. Most of my students don't really have a problem with this. What to remember, the OUS rhymes with miss, not us, or mouse. Okay, is. Okay, various, serious, Then why did it wouldn't be nervous? Nervous. I disagree. Various, serious, nervous, obvious, previous. What to remember? The us rhymes with miss, not us or mouse. Well, okay, ow. This ow for mouse. Oh, yes, I agree. But I do not agree with this. I wouldn't say obvious. It's obvious. Yeah, you could, but when you say it's obvious. Okay. Words ending in ION. Okay. Information, section, decision. Okay, it's a difficult sound for a lot of people. It's like television, decision. It is when we do this, we are stopping our vocal cords. We're stopping our vocal cords here. But if I say decision, I'm just continuing speaking. My vocal cords are still working, and that is the sound for television, decision, population. There we go. Population, association, organization, position, commission. Okay, so all of these have a shun. What to remember? The shun or shun is pronounced shun. It sounds similar to the word shin. The shin is that part of the front of your leg where when you're playing football and somebody kicks you at that front part, that bone in your leg, it's called the shin, and it's very painful. Very painful, especially when you're walking around in the dark and something hits your shin. Very painful. All right. Words ending in ate. Private, separate, adjective and verb. Demonstrate, concentrate, corporate, initiate, negotiate, adequate. Okay, some of these have an it ending. Yes. What to remember? The general rule is that verbs rhyme with ate and nouns and adjectives rhyme with it. All right, so let's go through them again. Private, separate, demonstrate, concentrate, corporate, initiate, negotiate, adequate. Verbs rhyme with ate. Yes, okay. If you can remember. Words ending in ans and ens. Violence, dependence, experience, conference, evidence, resistance, performance, importance. What to remember? Many words ending in ens and ans end with the sound uns. It's like a uns. This is, a lot of people don't know, but this upside down E, the pronunciation is It's everywhere in English. So listen, we're going to do this sound here. Look. Violence, dependence, experience, conference, evidence, resistance, performance, importance. It's almost like a UH, and it's everywhere in English, everywhere. So when you look at it from a transparent point of view, like Spanish, for example, you're saying ens or ants, but really the two sound like unts. As you get better, don't stress. As you get better with English, just listen for pronunciation, and don't stress yourselves. You will get it, but always be ready to change your pronunciation, okay? Don't get married to your pronunciation. Words with z sounding in the middle. J, sorry. Okay, this is interesting. So this sound here is j, like my name, James. J, like a J in English. Educate, education, graduate, graduation, soldier, individual, procedure. Often, what to remember, all these sounds have the j sound in the middle, like the first sound of the word German. Yeah, okay. It's quite common And this is quite tricky sometimes because a lot of people will say during the week or due to. And this is interesting because in the United States, often in the United States, they will say during or they will say a DU sound, but it's 50-50. Sometimes they say j and sometimes they say duh. But in the UK, it's generally this sound that we're talking about, j, especially with a DU. J, educate, education, graduate, graduation, soldier, individual, procedure. Okay, we'll do this part and then we can revisit, we can circle back to this later on. Words with silent letters. Okay, this should be interesting. Okay, so then we have receipt. Okay, a seat that you sit on, receipt. Answer, silent W. Vegetable, silent E in the middle, and table is table. There we have that sound again, the vegetable. Towards, towards. Okay. Then we have, yes, camera. The E is silent. Next is salmon, silent L. Basically, silent A at the end. Physically, so ALLY, we drop the A. Physically, typically. February. Laboratory. Just say lab. You don't need to just say in the lab. Muscle. Temperature. Yes, interesting one here. Temperature. So you reverse the R and the E and drop the A. Temperature. Corporate. We're dropping the O. Corporate. Average. Difference. Often. I don't agree with this. I do not agree with this. Often or often, depending on how quickly you say the sentence, depending where you are in the sentence, this is definitely not, it's not 100% true. You can use the T in often, or you can, it's optional. It's optional, because I use both. So then, if I do it, it's okay. Often or often. Yeah, but the T does get dropped sometimes. Wednesday. Difficult to pronounce, but just Wednesday. Whistle. Yes, the T is dropped. And castle. The T is dropped. Okay, we can revisit those. Pronunciation's always fun, especially as you get more confident or you get better at English. Your mistakes sound a bit more obvious. So it's English is always, it doesn't really have any rules in pronunciation and so on. So it's always good to try and practice or ask someone. Never be afraid to ask. I always ask for Spanish, because generally I find people are not going to help you. They might feel that they're being rude, or I understood what that person said. So ask for clarification for people. It's fun as well, because sometimes in different countries we have different pronunciations, and it's fun. But we'll revisit this towards the end. And now I want to look at this one from the Daily Mail. It's a Gen Z again at it, complaining, and it's about Generation Z, early 20s, new people beginning in their working life, and the problems and what they don't like in the office. So we're going to take a closer look at this, and the title is The Old Person Office Habits Gen Z is Cancelling Now. Okay, from making phone calls to sending messages longer than one sentence, and an awkward Zoom noise they can't stand. Okay, so these are the things that Gen Z are not happy with when they start, and they get onto social media and complain to people on social media. Then people can comment. So The first one is that Gen Z has a problem with in the working world is making phone calls. Okay. The introverted attorney summed up the feeling in an animated video which quickly went viral. Okay. Part of the job is talking to other humans, accompanied by the clip. So it seems that Gen Z, this age group, find it difficult to deal with a direct phone call. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but you may have noticed on the street more people doing this on the street and leaving voice messages because it's actually induces anxiety having to talk. And I have noticed with younger people when I call, often they won't answer the phone, and it's been so often that it is what we say in English. It's a thing. A thing is it's a real thing. So let's have a look at this video. I'm going to put on my headphones. I'm going to listen to the video, and we'll go back.
I don't want to do this. Please don't pick up. I don't want to do this. Please don't pick up.
Hi, is this Tony?
Please
Hi,
don't
this
pick
is.
up.
Hi, is this Tony? Hi, this is.
Okay, so basically, part of it is they're dialing the phone, but they don't want anybody to answer the phone. It's just this anxiety that they get when other people go on the phone. So the reactions to the video, it might say, I suppose to older generations, it can seem absurd, crazy that the younger generation are paranoid or it induces anxiety to make a phone call. But it is actually true. And let's look at the comments. The viral video resonated with other TikTokers, with one admitting they avoid making calls at all costs. So at all costs means whenever possible. At all costs. So I remember my phone broke at work and I didn't just say anything for weeks, they said. So somebody, a younger person, and their phone was broke at work and they didn't tell a manager because they were happy. They were happy that their phone was broke. Others revealed the video made them feel better, knowing they aren't alone. Pronunciation here, guys. Aren't. One syllable. Often I'll hear aren't because of the transparency, but it's aren't. Aren't. A-R-N-T. Aren't. They aren't alone, with some dubbing Gen Z the generation of phone anxiety. I have noticed, yes, mainly Gen Z. But you can see people increasingly having more anxiety nowadays answering the phone. When I was younger, we would run to the phone, hoping it was for me, or run to the front door when the bell rang. But now people are hiding behind the sofa or not answering. It's like, oh, who's this? Who's this? Like, it's like an attack when you don't recognize the number. Someone else said, I used to work in a call center and this is too accurate. I work in customer service and this is too accurate, said another. This expression too before usually meant always negative, but now people are using too as a synonym for so accurate or for so. This is so crazy. This is too crazy. So again, this used to be a kind of wrong thing to say in English because too was always negative, but it's becoming used in social English now to mean so. While others admitted calls made them more nervous. Nervous in the sense of English is only afraid or worried or anxious. This is the use of nervous in English. I have problems with this in the Spanish language because it seems to be a bit more flexible in Spanish. Okay. People said outgoing calls are fine. So if I'm making a call, it's an outgoing call. I know what it will be about. The incoming calls scare the hell out of me because they could be anything, one man said. Making your manager and co-workers aware that this is something you struggle with will allow them to support you by delegating less calls to you in the beginning or even providing a script to read off. So if you talk to your manager about this situation, I suppose if you have an open-minded manager, I suppose some managers might not understand if they're from an older generation, but perhaps what you can do is talk to your manager and say, look, I find it difficult making calls. Would it be possible to not allow me to make calls so much or something? But anyway, being given a Dell laptop. This is not good. According to some Gen Z, the laptop you are given says a lot about the workplace, and the worst option is Dell. Okay, are any of you guys guilty? And how do you Gen Z people feel about this? If your new employer sends you a Dell, then it is a sign to look for a new job. They are probably experiencing cash flow issues, he said in a viral video. Let's have a look at this video. What your work laptop says.
This is what your work laptop says about your company. If your company sends you a Dell, I would look for a new job as they are probably experiencing cash flow issues. If your company sends you a Lenovo ThinkPad, they view you as a number solely for your productivity. You are not a person to them. If your company sends you a MacBook Pro, they probably have some extra cash to burn and are spending it unwisely.
Interesting. Also, you have the situation if you're working from home, WFH, where if you're lucky enough, your company will allow you to choose your laptop and then give you the money back. So that's a nice one. That's but yeah, let me know. Do you agree with that? So it's not looking good if you have a Dell. If you have the Lenovo, you are just a statistic. You're just a number in the office. And if you have a Mac Pro, they're spending their money unwisely. They have too much money. Interesting. So what's a good one to get? I don't know. It hasn't been. Let's see if would they mention it down here. My Dell overheats on sleep mode, one person complained. So does mine, laughs out loud. The second I close it and put it away, it's like I have the sun in my backpack. With a third explaining the only way to fix a Dell is not to get one. And while Dell ranked highest for the ick factor, let me tell you what ick is. It's a common thing now on TikTok, I think. Ick is like when you say in English, yuck, yucky, icky. It's a not nice. It's something that's not nice. It's disgusting, or it's icky, it's yucky. These are kind of words we say in English when something is disgusting. I think I remember, I don't know in Spanish, I remember in French they would say burk, burk. And in English we'll often say yucky, icky, it's yucky. So Dell has the highest ick factor. I just started my new job and they gave me a desktop for my working from home job. I was so insulted, one woman said. But someone said you shouldn't be put off. To be put off is to be disgusted or to be not happy with the equipment. So don't be put off by the equipment supplied to them by their boss, okay? We looked at these before. Another one, so that's number 2, the type of laptop. Making awkward noises to fill the void. I might be guilty of this. Let me know if you guys are guilty. Do you do this? Gen Z have complained that the noise bosses make to fill the void when they are sharing their screen on Zoom. I often share my screen on Zoom. So let me see. Sum the noise up in it. So let's look at the clip that in the video he is okay, let's look at the video and see if that sound that every person sharing their screen makes when they have no clue what to do. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, So this is the sound people make when they are like, okay, so I'm just going to share my screen. So it's to fill the empty space to fill. I'll have to talk to my students about this. But the making the sounds of the words go longer is definitely something I would do. Just going to, yes, here we have it. Look, somebody says, all right, I'm gonna share my screen. Can you see it? Yes, I'm always saying that. Can you see it? Okay. Someone said, I think I've done this before and I've given myself the ick. So this is a new thing called the ick. Okay, we have to know what the new generation of workers are saying. We have to be in with them. Another person said that sometimes people, when they're trying to organize sharing the screen or bringing something up on the screen, they're saying, oh, so how was your weekend? And it's Wednesday. So older management or team members are often the people who use these things. Many disagreed with his statement that there is nothing wrong with humming and said the noise is a cry for help or a sign that old people are at the mercy of technology. Yeah, like, so old people don't really understand technology as well. I'm guilty. Sometimes people will say, this is humming. And we don't know what we're doing. I consider myself a technophobe, but only in the sense, like, I like technology, but I really don't know how to work it very well. Are you guys the same? Let me know. We looked at this before, which was the emojis. We looked at that the other day. Another one here is long work-related messages. According to Gen Zs on TikTok, all work-related slacks and texts should be as short as possible, with many suggesting a sentence is enough, and even half sentences are completely appropriate. Do not send me paragraphs. I don't have time to read an essay. Is the message one young boss wants to put out. People want short messages. The younger generation want it short. Be brief, be bright, be gone, she suggests in her video. Let's have a look at the video. You complaining about people sending long work-related messages. Let's have a look at the video.
So what are the Slack or chat norms at your work? Because recently I have started receiving a lot more paragraphs to the messages that I'm sending to people when I'm asking for like quick updates. I don't have the time or the energy or frankly the interest in reading paragraphs when I just want to know, like, where is this thing, or what happened with this thing, or are you blocked by this? Like, use less words. I will take a sentence. I'll take a fragment of a sentence. I will take words strung together by an ellipses or an em dash. I will take consonants and you can just completely forget the vowels and I will just pretend it's Wordle and try and figure it out for myself. But I don't want your essay. So is this just like a pet peeve of mine, which is probably true if you just check out my disc profile, or does everybody's workplace do this?
Interesting. So let me know if you guys agree. She doesn't want long messages. Her accent, by the way, is firmly, distinctly North American. She doesn't want long messages. She just wants fragments. Just give me the basics. Just give it to me. I will work out what you're trying to say. Keep it brief. Are you guys the same? Are you guilty of sending long messages? Sometimes I feel in emails it can be the same. If you're I feel perhaps sometimes in emails there are unnecessary maybe perhaps unnecessary length in the emails. It's too long. I don't receive so many emails. My emails are quite I don't get them so much. But when I look at emails in the business sense, sometimes after a certain point, just in your messages, it is fine to keep it brief. I feel, and especially in the United States, they are more comfortable with being direct and quick. It's not necessary to have pleasantries. Good afternoon. I hope you're well. Blah blah blah. This is not necessary all the time. You can look at how this boss, for example, sends messages and just mirror that. Now, she made a good expression there, which is a pet peeve of mine. A peeve is something that annoys you, but it's not terrible, but it's, for her, this is a pet peeve. Pet is like your pet. It's like something, the animal that's in your house. Very common expression. Very nice. It's like, let me know what a pet peeve of yours is in the office. Hers is long messages when they're not necessary. Just be brief. Just tell me. She even says, don't even need to put the vowels, put the consonants. So she's not interested. That's quite it's quite interesting. So let's see. She's not alone in this. Chats are at most should be. Chats are for at most a sentence and at best a GIF, one person said. Sometimes you don't even need to send anything, just send a GIF, which is these moving, very short moving videos. A project manager sent me 3 paragraphs of notes that all boil down to put a dash in the title on the document, added another. Oh, right. Okay. So they wanted to say something and they could have said it very briefly, but sent 3 paragraphs. A third said anything too long needed to be put in an email instead of closing. Okay. Another woman ruling on word count. Listen, words in chats, sentences in emails, paragraphs in meetings. Okay. That's an interesting. If you're having a chat, listen, word in chats, sentences in emails, paragraphs in meetings. Okay. Yep. So if you're sending WhatsApp, keep it down to words, sentences in emails, and paragraphs in meetings. That's good. I like that. Mr. Butler admitted it can be difficult. Everyone has their preferred method of communication. Work together on deciding what works best for you, he suggested. Yeah, the problem is most people don't. We just have these passive-aggressive things. Okay. The 5th and final Gen Z pet peeve is the Friday afternoon meeting. But meeting peeves also extend to hour-long meetings that could have been emails and last-minute meetings. Here we go. Let's look at the video.
Another one, thank you. Another one, thank you. Another one, thank you.
Okay, invited to all these meetings on a Friday. Nobody wants to be in those meetings. I think next week, someone needs to remind me. I want to talk to you guys about quiet quitting. Don't have time to do it today, but would be quite interested in this. So these are the meetings. I have a meeting at 2 p.m. on Friday. Seriously, who schedules a meeting for Friday afternoon? One person vented. To vent is when you complain. The vent is where the air comes from. In the air conditioning, it comes out, in or out. It gives fresh air to a room. That's a vent. And we use this as when you're complaining and you're getting things off your chest, you're venting. One person vented. I've got the same thing, same time, and I had the exact same line flash through my head. While others suggest meetings should not be held before 10 a.m. if possible. Should be held before. Yes, you should have them before. If possible, while Friday meetings should never be recurring. The Zoomer generation also recently expressed their icks when it comes to email phrases, and they use it. Okay, so we went through this the other day. Passive-aggressive corporate emails. Okay, interesting. Let me know what you guys think. Complaining, are these guys complaining too much? But, they're the next generation of workers, and we're all different. So your comments are welcome. Let's go and jump in and have a look at our idiom of the day. The idiom of the day is rags to riches. Rags to riches. This comes from englishclub.com. What does it mean? If you go from rags to riches, you start out very poor and you become very rich. Here's an example. My grandfather went from rags to riches when his dishwashing liquid became very popular. He started out making it at home, but in less than a year he had his own factory. Another example. Most of these young guys in professional basketball came from poor neighborhoods, and they all have the same rags to riches story. So a rag is a piece of cloth, a piece of material that is not in good condition. And sometimes you'll have it for when you, maybe before you would just cut some old clothes to use to wipe, or use when you're fixing your car or so. Now, and a rag. So when people have terrible clothes, they look like rags. Good expression. It is popular in English, rags to riches story. If you can think of anyone who's famous who was poor and then became rich, their story is a rags to riches story. Let's go back. Phrasal verb of the day. What have we got? Describe as. Let's have a look. All about context, by the way. To say that something is a certain kind of thing, or that someone is a certain... Okay, let's describe something as something. Would you describe your music as rock or pop? Right, okay, yeah, you need to get the context. I would describe my podcast as a business podcast, for example. Would you describe your music as rock or pop? I would describe it as more poppy. If we're talking about, who was I listening to? Katy Perry, for example. I was listening to a podcast, they were talking about her, and I was like, oh, I don't know, Katy Perry. Yeah, well, I would describe her music as more as pop. I'd describe Uncle Ted as a fairly typical middle-aged man. Right. How would you describe your taste in fashion? How would you describe your taste in music? Let's go back. Slang. Street language. This one is never reliable. Twink. This is popular now in the United States. A twink, a young man with boyish good looks. I remember in France they would say beau gosse. There were a lot of cute twinks at the gay club last night. Do you know that straight men call cute young girls babes and gay men call cute... okay. New to me, didn't know this. This is from the United States. Okay, let's go back. And saying of the day. He that will learn to pray, let him go to sea. The sea is supremely powerful and can be terrifying and awesome, inspiring place. So what is it? He that will learn to pray. I never heard this before. He that will learn to pray, let him go to sea. Possible interpret. The sea is supremely powerful and can be terrifying and awesome and awe-inspiring place. Something about giving, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. He that will learn to pray, let him go to sea. I think this is about finding religion. Trust me, it's never used. So I don't need to worry about that one. Where was I? Okay, and I was going to revisit, but I want to get into other expressions that we had from our frases, the Spanish ones. But what I've decided to do is I'm not going to say the Spanish part because I'm just terrible, and I'm just going to give you the English part. So the next expression that I wanted, let me just go back here. That's going to, right. Okay, and I'm going to make myself bigger because I'm going to be talking to you guys about these good expressions for business before we end today. So here's a good one. To get your foot in the door. To get your foot in the door. If you can imagine, in the old days, people would come to sell things door to door. They'd knock in your door. Or somebody comes to your door, and then you try to close the door, and they put their foot in the door to stop you closing the door. You're unable to close the door. We use this as a positive English expression, and it means, I'll give you an example. This part-time work has allowed Frank to get his foot in the door, and he hopes it will lead to a full-time job. So Frank has started in a part-time position, but we say now he has his foot in the door, and hopefully it will lead to a full-time position. It's he has an opportunity. Good expression. We do use it. We often people perhaps, if you even just given a small opportunity, perhaps to work as an intern in a company, that you've got a foot in the door. So if you want to work for Netflix and they give you some small job to do, but you want a better one later, well, you take the small job just to get your foot in the door. And if you remember this person selling things at the door and you try to close it, but they put their foot in, the foot in the door. The next one is to jump through hoops. A hoop is like this in the circus. To jump through hoops. The company is jumping through hoops these days to try to please advertisers. So when you think about the circus and how difficult these acrobats, or they're doing acrobatics and they're jumping through these hoops with the fire and so, it's quite difficult. So you're going beyond what is necessary. You're doing quite difficult things. So the company is jumping through hoops these days to try please advertisers. They're doing everything they can. They're jumping through hoops. The next one is to pull strings. String is a cuerda, to pull strings. And what does this mean? I may be able to pull a few strings if you need to get money urgently. So what to pull strings is to find a solution, to how to get an influence, talk to people. So if I work in the business, or if I work in the film industry, and you are a young aspiring actor, you want to be an actor, and I work in the industry, and you're my friend, I might be able to talk to some people that can get you a foot in the door, that can get you a role. I might be able to pull a few strings for you. So this is what to pull a few strings is. Used often. The next one, to stay on top of. To stay on top of. I will stay on top of this project. I will keep this project in control. To be in control of something is to stay on top of something. I might have mentioned this in the last one. I think I may have used it in the last one. Okay. Right. Let's circle back to what we were talking about earlier, which was the pronunciation, and I'm going to minimize myself before we end here. And we're going to look at a bit more pronunciation today before we end, and before you guys have an excellent weekend, I hope. So we're looking at words with a CH sound like a K. Okay, so CH sometimes is ch, but in this case it sounds like a K. Chemical, mechanical, psychiatry, ache. This is commonly mispronounced. I often hear H, but it's ache. Stomach ache, toothache, headache, backache, neck ache. Technique. How do you pronounce this word, guys? Chaos or chaos in English? The pronunciation is chaos. Okay, Words that change stress depending on whether they are a noun or a verb. Okay, depending if it's to conduct or... Right, so let's have a look. Conduct, attribute, combat, conflict, contract. Ah, yes, okay. So to conduct, conduct. Let's do it as verbs, okay? To conduct, to attribute, to combat, to conflict, to contract, to decrease, to increase, to impact, to insult, to object, to permit, to progress, to refund, to reject, to subject, to suspect, to transfer. And I have to think of it now as nouns: conduct, attribute, combat, conflict, contract, decrease, increase, impact, insult, object, permit, progress, refund, reject, subject, suspect, transfer. It's a long list, but yes, it's true. It does depend on whether it's a verb or a noun. What to remember: if it's a noun, the stress goes on the first syllable. If it's a verb, the stress goes on the second syllable. So let's do the verb. To conduct, to attribute, to combat. And then as a noun, conduct. Okay, your conduct hasn't been very good lately. That's a good one. Good way to remember if you can. If you're going to sit down and learn it. But that is a good way to remember. Words borrowed from French. Ballet, valet, the person who parked your car. Buffet, Merlot, the wine. And chalet. This is something in Spain you say chalet for a house that is detached. We say detached. So you attach something, detach. And sometimes when you have them beside each other, but on one side, we say semi-detached. So a chalet in English is a house or a detached house. Most people in the English-speaking world, depending, in the UK, for example, live in houses. It's not common to live in apartments. So, and a chalet, when I was growing up, a chalet was, you would have a school building, and then on the side you had these kind of not great buildings. They're made from wood. They weren't really well made. They're kind of just temporary, made of wood, and that they were called chalets. I'm not sure. But basically, when you talk about chalet in English for the UK, we would normally say a house or detached house. Possessive pronouns: myself, yourself, himself, herself, themselves, ourselves. The S at the end is Z. Oh yes, teen and tens, commonly mispronounced. 14, 40, 15, 50, 16, 60, 17, 70. What to remember? For teens, the stress goes on the second syllable. For tens, the stress goes on the first. This is the best way to remember. The teen, the stress goes on the second one. 14, 15, 16, 17. So it's more noticeable on the second. And for 40, 50, 60, 70. Very commonly mispronounced, And if you misunderstand, it can be a problem. It can be a problem if you're doing negotiations for salary or something like this. You don't want to get that wrong. Okay, so just remember, the only thing you need to remember is the teen is the one that you pronounce. Okay, 14, 15. Just if we can hear that, and the other one is a punch at the beginning. 50, 30, 40, 60, 70. Right before we end, words with a T that is cut off and not pronounced. Button, mountain, certain, curtain, fountain, important. We typically don't pronounce the T in these words. Instead, we cut the sound off by restricting airflow. Okay. Watch this. So, I'm going to give you an example. Button, button, mountain, mountain, certain, certain, curtain, curtain, fountain, fountain, important, important. We do this sound. Button, mountain, certain, curtain, fountain, important. Very common all over the world, and it's becoming more. It was fashionable. Well, when I was growing up, and in the UK and Ireland, it was considered uneducated to say this. It's more uneducated, but it's becoming more acceptable. It's being used more in the United States now. Kind of came through music, and I notice it more and more. It's becoming more accepted. But if you go to London, I was talking about it yesterday with my students, and we were looking at the word. Oh, I need to get this video. This is hilarious. Let me try and get this video for you. Give me a second. And it is the pronunciation. A-T-I-O-N. Let's see if I can find this video. No, I can't find video. Maybe if I put in funny. Oh, here we go. This is hilarious. Let me just make sure that you guys have the video. Yes, okay. So listen to this. This is in the UK. We have someone from the south of England. And we have someone from the north. The south of England is the person who is the interviewer. We just need to get through these ads.
You've got the idea. Go down.
But some in Middlesbrough won't have it.
Tomorrow.
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 It's tomorrow.
No, it's tomorrow.
Butter.
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 Listen. Butter.
Butter.
That's it. Say again.
Butter.
Very good. Thank you very much indeed.
Standard English on the streets of Teesside. Together, we can do this. Damon Green, ITV.
That's hilarious. But as you can see, it's exactly what we're talking about, is this swallowing the T. And in all different parts of the UK, Ireland, the United States, you can see this example. Okay, thanks guys. That's Morning Coffee with me, James O Reilly, in association with LK Formation. I hope you enjoyed the class. I hope it's been useful for you and you've learned some things. We'll be back next Monday, next week, on Halloween. Okay, maybe we'll do something in relation to Halloween. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday. All the best. Bye.